I'm John Wood, and I'm in the corner with Destiny McCubbin.
What's up, guys? This is In the Corner with Destiny McCubbin, and we are so back. And I've got none other than John Wood in the house, a true pioneer of the MMA world and combat world, head coach and gym owner of Syndicate MMA, head coach of Merab Dvalishvili, world champion. And let's not forget, just recently voted Georgian MMA head coach of the year. In my opinion, head coach of the year, period. But, you know, whatever.
Thank you.
What's up, John? How we doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy. You were just over there creating world champions. You have an amazing team. So thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to come and chop it up in the corner with me.
Of course, anything for you.
Thank you. I just want to talk about the beginning. You know, you're somebody, like I had said, you're a pioneer. You've been here, been in the game for, you know, many years. You've had a gym now for what, 2 decades?
22 years.
22
this is my
years.
22nd year with a gym.
Okay, that's crazy. Like, you know, you didn't land on this mountain. You've climbed.
Yeah, it's been a long, crazy process, and every time I sit back and talk about it, it blows my mind. You know, it's like everything that that's happening now is things that I've seen and envisioned and, like, you know, always knew kind of get there, but when you get there, you're just like, holy shit, this is really happening. You know, it's like when you get to live your dreams every day, which this is what I've always wanted to do. When I found MMA, there was no other out. It was this or nothing. I don't know what else I would be doing, and cliche, probably be in prison or something stupid, you know.
Right.
But this really did take over my life, and I just kind of always knew that these things would be happening, knew that we would be here, you know, experiencing the success that we have, but it's so surreal when it happens, you know, and I just like, I'm so thankful every day that I get to live this life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 22 years, like, now you're at the point where you're like in the, you know, you're eating the fruits of your labor, kind of, you know. When you say, like, when you found MMA, you kind of knew like this was the road you were going to take. At what point was that? Like, what took you into the MMA world? Man, how old were you?
UFC 1, you know, like I'm one of those rare people that actually watched it live on pay-per-view.
Wow.
I was a kid, you know, when I was growing up on the playgrounds, there wasn't no UFC. There wasn't anything like that. It was wrestling. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to be WWF back in the day, you know, long before WWE, which I still can't get on board with. It's WWF. But I realized that I'm not 6'7" and, you know, 400 pounds. So It wasn't like nowadays there's some smaller wrestlers, but there was no path, you know, for that. And so I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'll do, but I always knew I wanted to do something in combat sports. I remember, you know, growing up watching boxing, kickboxing with my dad every, you know, Tuesday night fights, Wednesday night kickboxing, Friday night fights. You know, he was always watching that stuff, and I just loved it. And I think I got my first pair of boxing gloves when I was like 4 years old, 5 years old.
Okay.
You know, and I remember just boxing with my brother and my dad back in the day, always trying to get that on and having boxing matches with my friends. And it's funny, I just now remembered all that stuff. I haven't had that memory in a long time, but yeah, you know, and then fast forward a few years later, I think I was 12, 13 maybe.
Okay.
And I was at my friend's house. We had a rich friend actually who had money and could afford pay-per-view. So he'd go over there and watch all the pay-per-views on his big screen. And we watched this UFC. No one knew what it was. Hey, we're going to watch this crazy thing. And man, I watched and just remember like, oh my God, that's awesome. Now, I didn't know at that point in time that I was going to be a fighter or be a coach or be whatever. I just fell in love with it. Okay. And so, you know, always watched all the pay-per-views after that from there on out. Okay. And, you know, even I worked at a Blockbuster when I was like 16, you know, 16, 17 years old. I ended up, you know, working at Blockbuster. And so I had access to all the videotapes. So I'd buy all the old tapes because there was the dark years where you couldn't watch it, you know, on pay-per-view anymore. They banned it everywhere. And then I remember I just would watch them over and over and over and over and over at night. I loved them, you know. And so growing up in Vegas, when I was a kid here, there wasn't, you know, football, there wasn't hockey, there wasn't baseball, there was nothing. It was skateboarding. You know, I was a skateboarder, punk rocker, you know, just like to get in fights and party with my friends and do all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to be a rock star, and you know, that was my thing. And then yeah, and so there was a lot of just doing nothing but getting in trouble. Okay. And so that kind of caught up to me, and then I ended up having to leave Vegas for a while, and I went to Arizona. Okay. You know, my mom was out there at the time, and I moved out there. And in Arizona, I think I moved out there when I was 17. You could be 18 to be a bouncer. So I think I had a fake ID, and I actually think I started bouncing in the clubs when I was like 17, 18 years old, 17 early. And when I got heavy into that, I was like, you know, I really want to learn some more, you know, self-defense and things. And I had started doing a close quarter combat thing, and that just led into, oh my God, I want to do jiu-jitsu, and I want to do Muay Thai. And then I fell into MMA, you know, and at the end of like, when I was turning 18, I fell into like falling, you know, like, oh my God, I want to do all this stuff. Right. So I fell in love with mixed martial arts and started training full-time by 17, 18, MMA from day one. And then that just kind of took its course. And once I started training, I was hooked. Yeah. You know, and I knew that I wanted to fight. But I never had that like urge to really want to be, you know, I never thought I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be this. There wasn't even ways to really, like, the UFC had just started getting going, you know, like it was really picking up. So fast forward a couple more years, spent a couple years in Arizona, and then kind of wore out my welcome there and needed to come back to Vegas.
So you started training for MMA there. Where'd you start at there?
So Arizona Combat Sports. Okay. So with the Lawley brothers, Trevor Todd Lawley, where it was like the first like bigger gym. I had gone to a couple smaller gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms and things like that, but that was the first one. They had a couple UFC guys out of their gym there. So, you know, I was fighting in Arizona and approaching called Rage in the Cage. And then actually even like did a couple like underground like fights in dudes' basements, and they had cages and like rich guys would bet on you.
Oh
like,
my God.
Yeah, like it was crazy. I did some stupid stuff, but like that's where, you know, it was go fight for these small shows, and you ended up spending money. You know, it cost more to fight back in the day, or go fight some dude in the basement for $1,000. And you know, you thought you were rich at that point in time, making $1,000. So I had a couple of those and a couple just crazy fights all over. Yeah. But that's when the sport kind of started picking up, and Vegas started kind of catching the, you know, the heat, and there was, the UFC was based out of here, and they had bought the company, and that's when everything started turning. So I was like, you know what? I want to go home. Vegas has always been home to me. And so I ended up moving back here, and that's when I came back, and I joined the Las Vegas Combat Club. And that was the original gym where myself, Frank Mir, Phil Baroni back in the day, a bunch of other guys came out of, you know, my coach, Ricardo Perez. And that's where things really just, I was like, okay.
Oh, this is real.
This is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Wow.
And through that gym, I really fell in love with jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu became my first love. Okay. You know, and so I really excelled and loved just competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments, going, and where I kind of just discovered this the other day. I think like my first love of coaching came from going and coaching, you know, at jiu-jitsu tournaments. Okay. And that's where I was like, I like this. You know, I'd show up and help the coaches and help my coaches and corner whoever and running from mat to mat, you know, and Grappler's Quest and Naga and whatever they had back in the day. And that's where I really was like, man, I think I like coaching. You know? And that's where I think the whole thing started. And then got into a little car accident. Somebody T-boned me coming out of I was making a turn, and they hit me, and I ended up getting a little bit of a settlement, you know, for that. Not much, you know, but I had this money, you know, and I went to my coach, Ricardo, said, hey, you know, what do you think about starting a gym? Like, could I partner with you? Could I open?
Wow. And how old were you at this point?
I think it's 23,
wow,
24.
Just a kid.
Yeah. I was like, can we open a location? Because back then, all the gyms, especially in Vegas, were in the hood. You know, they're all in warehouse districts. They're all in the hood, hard to get to. They were not very friendly, you know, and I just got a feeling like the sport was going to do what it's doing. So I went to him and I said, you know, hey, I want to do this. Like, can I invest we open a location somewhere nice, somewhere that families and kids and people, we can kind of get this to the normal person,
Wow.
give them an option to do it. And he said, yeah. And so here we are. It started in a 1,800 square foot little office building that we demoed ourselves, that we did everything ourselves. And holy shit, I thought it was going to be, I'm going to show up and train every day and just have this place
fun.
to have fun. And oh my God, was I wrong. That was terrible. It was, the first few years were just terrible. It was so hard to, we were always in, Forrest Griffin's one of my best friends. And, he was living with me at the time that we actually started this gym. And he helped me out a lot to get it off the ground. And, my coaches, they bailed pretty quick on it, ended up moving back to Brazil, doing whatever. So I had to find, luckily, another partner and friends that came in and helped me start to grow it. And really, eventually kind of figured out through a lot of trials and tribulations that you got to run it like a business. First and foremost, any business, no matter what that business is, has to be run like a business. And so that was the biggest part of really figuring out that stuff and getting kind of the infrastructure built on the business end, and then hoping and praying.
And you're just learning this all on your own.
My God,
this is all on you
That
as
was
you go.
all
23
on me.
and that's what's so fascinating to see where you are today.
It's crazy. That gym, my gym should have shut down probably 10 times. And I survived an economic collapse. I've COVID, all these crazy things that have gone on.
How many locations did you have? Was it just the
we
two?
started there at the small gym.
Okay.
And then Zion's the main sponsor of UFC at the time. The owner's kid trained at my gym. Okay. And I always used to just follow Forrest around. Wherever Forrest would go, I'd go with him, just to meet and greet and find people. And he was sponsored by Zion. So I ended up meeting the owner and then making that correlation of, his kid trains at your gym. If you
Is he in the UFC at this time?
Forrest was,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This is right after he got off the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
So he was hot shit.
Yeah.
And right after he got off the Ultimate Fighter, he was living in my dining room, under my dining room table. He had a mattress under my dining room table. That was his bedroom.
Isn't that so crazy?
Yeah, so he lived with me and Alex Schonauer in a 2-bedroom apartment, and that was his bedroom. So, but yeah, I ended up meeting that guy and, ended up getting a Zion sponsorship out of it. So we called it Zion's Training Center. And then after that, went belly up because the guy was a crook and, ended up embezzling a ton of money, and even ended up, and that's another thing, he was kiting checks on the gym, he was writing bad checks, and I ended up, people came after me for a couple $100,000 that I didn't know was going on. So that could have buried me, and I got that squared away, and then just found sponsor after sponsor. Luckily, being in the industry and finding, and going around and meeting everybody I could, I was able to have some good sponsors. The second sponsor was Warrior. It was a clothing company, Warrior Clothing, Warrior. So we named it Warrior Training Center. Warrior. Yeah. And put the name on that. And then Throwdown Training Center, Throwdown's company, and whoever would basically give me money to keep the doors open. Right. So I was able to find sponsors. I was able to find the right partners through the time. But yeah, all this just learning on the job and crazy chaotic. I'm amazed that we made it through.
And during this time, you're also fighting still.
Yeah.
Your own career.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, opening a gym was the worst thing I could have done for my fighting career. It was the worst. Yeah, it was absolutely the worst. You just can't do both. There's very few people in this world.
Would you say that's why it was short? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. I could have kept fighting, the grind and the injuries and things just started mounting. And every time I got an opportunity, I got signed on the Ultimate Fighter season 7. I tore my bicep tendon 2 weeks before, right off the bone,
Jeez.
and then that was the first.
So did you get to compete?
Yeah, I fought though.
You did
that
fight?
was the first year where you had to fight to get in. So I was kind of figuring, Forrest was the coach on the season. I remember I was up on the hill snowboarding, and he's like, hey, you got to come down. You got to get back here tomorrow and do your interview, and then you could probably get on the show. So I shot down the mountain and drove 5 hours all night, showed up the next day, got on.
Oh my gosh, so there's no sleep coming down.
Yeah, 2 days later I was sparring and snapped my bicep tendon off the bone. So I kind of thought my process going into that was, Forrest is my coach, or he should be my coach. I'll get on, and then he can maybe it'll heal up enough. Because I went to the doctor and they were saying it's hanging on by a thread. You got 5% of it left. So I put it in a sling and just left it there for 2 weeks before I got to the show.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't know I had to fight the first day or second day.
Shit.
So my thought process was make me fight towards the end.
Right.
You know, at the very least, if I get some TV time, then maybe they'll bring me back for a fight in the finale, and we'll get this worked out. Nope. Day one, we show up. Hey, you guys fight tomorrow. Fuck. So as I got on the first day, and somebody asked me, like, hey, you want to train? You want to go up and roll? And I said, sure. Got up there, roll, snapped it off completely. The thing rolled up here, so I just put an elbow sleeve on.
Oh my God.
Covered it. If you see, I fought with an elbow sleeve, and you can't see it. And I went out there, and they put me with a pure grappler, Dante Rivera, which I would have loved. Like at the time, that's all I loved to grapple.
Right,
that was my thing. I would have been perfect, but I was like, I'm keeping this standing. So I throw one combination, dude takes me down, and I can't do anything.
Defend.
I can't do anything. I'm grabbing him and picks me up and slams me down, and we're still fighting, and he grabs my arm and he starts to just rip it, and I had to kind of tap and go, oh God, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And then because I had no insurance.
Right. That's
so the UFC paid for my insurance.
Got the surgery.
Yeah.
How long was that recovery?
Oh man, it was it was a year before I was fighting again. 6 months recovery, and then
easing back
had to ease back in and train.
Yeah.
So it just was always something. It was always something. And it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I've got this thing over here that I love to do. I knew I wanted to coach. And honestly, I only fought to have experience, just to say, hey, I to be able to pass that on and go, I've been in there. I know what you guys are talking about. I've been there, done that, And so I had a crazy fighting career where I was always with good people, but I never had a good team. I was just following fighters around, and you know how it is in Vegas. Like that was the start of it. It's just so very nomadic. Everybody just goes everywhere, and you just got to kind of find your way.
Right.
So I was able to see lots of good stuff and pick up lots of good things, but it really I just got lost in the shuffle. And so for me, it was just like, you know what? I've got this gym, and I think I know what I can do. And at least I thought I was going to be good at it. I wasn't then, or I was getting to the point where I, believed in myself. But, I just went 100% in after that.
Right. I think that's something that separates you though, as well, from other coaches, is the fact that you competed, and you've experienced it, and you can kind of understand, because some coaches never have done it. Yeah. And then they want to still be in the position that you are in,
And I believe it is something that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes you just have it in you to be a coach.
Without doing, not everybody has to compete, but there's a level to going, hey man, I know what you're feeling. Motherfucker, no you don't. You ain't got any idea what I'm feeling if they've never done it before.
Right.
That's the thing, is there's a lot of coaches I know that haven't fought. It doesn't mean they're bad coaches, but you don't have that experience. You cannot relate. There is nobody, unless you've done it. I can't say, I know what you went through in slap. I've never stood up there and got my face slapped. It was
fun. You might like it.
I've been slapped in a street fight before, but I ain't never been slapped by, been paid for it. But until you've done it, it's just tough to kind of, to make that correlation.
Yes, absolutely. What would you say from your years of competing now most influence, kind of how you coach, how you go about your coaching?
Just knowing how important it is to have that figure be there, and trust in somebody, and know that you've been guided the right way, and know that the work has been done the right way, and that someone has your back. I never went into a fight. I think I actually had a coach corner me maybe 2 or 3 times out of 18 fights.
Wow.
And so it was always a training partner, a friend, a this, or that. So just having somebody who's been in the trenches with you, and gone through the process, and knows what you know, and knows what you don't know, and knows what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, and how to steer that and guide that.
Yeah.
The one thing I always tell you guys is hey, I'm never going to tell you something to do if I know you don't know how to do it. If you can't, I'm never going to come up and create and start coaching you and teaching you something in the fight. So if I tell you to do something, it's because I know you can. It's because I've seen you do it.
Right.
And I believe that you can do it right then and there, So having that kind of that relationship, I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you just, when you get into that shitty, scary, gut-wrenching, terrible situation that you will be in a fight at some point, that you know, like, okay, I've done everything I can. I've got the right people with me, and you have that support.
Right. Absolutely. That will definitely, like, it just makes such a difference,
Yeah.
you know? And like, as you said before, grappling jiu-jitsu was your first love,
Yeah.
you know, and your record, you have 5 submission wins. So how did you go from where the transition, or when did you make the transition of being that high, heavy grappler to now being a clinical striking coach, you know, with a great striking program? Like, when did that transition happen?
I have way more submission wins than that, but I don't know which record you were looking at, but no, I have, like, yeah, I've got more on that. Right?
Okay.
But we'll talk about that later. But anyways, yeah, I think out of 11 wins or 12 fights that I had, I think 10 or 11 of them were submissions.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was my whole thing. I didn't have confidence. I was always good at naturally, you know, I had good reflexes, and I was always good at counterfighting. I just didn't believe. I didn't have a coach back then. I had really come up grappling. That's where I was coached the most, was grappling. So I never really had a good striking coach. I had good striking coaches, but I didn't have anybody pushing me for that. So I never felt confident in that. So it was always, when I got into a fight, it was like, oh shit,
For what you know.
I'm taking you down.
Right.
I'd be winning fights easy on stand up, and just take somebody down, and then not know how to control. Like, I would go so hard. I was winning every fight until I lost. You know, I'd get caught in something, and my coach was like, why did you take him down? You were killing him.
Right.
Like, I don't know, because that's what I do. You know, so I just always felt more comfortable on that. And it's like, I've always loved jiu-jitsu, you know. I just finally a couple of years ago got my black belt after being a brown belt for 14 years, you know. So
And who did you get brown or black under?
Shane Shapiro brothers, who are the coaches at our gym, you know. So
awesome.
Over the years, I had a lot of people that wanted to give me one or tried to give me one, but I just never didn't feel it was the right thing to do unless you're training under somebody, you know, and it was somebody that was going to stick around for a long time. So then once I got, you know, with Jerry and Shane, and they're so good at jiu-jitsu and just good people, like, you know, and that's somebody I plan to have a relationship with for a long, long time, hopefully forever. Yeah. You know, that it just made sense to me to try to go in all in on that.
Awesome. So when you first started, you know, being a gym owner, and I did want to ask, Syndicate, was that always the name, or you said you had different names?
we had different sponsors. The fight team name was always Syndicate. Like, it was always Sin City Syndicates.
Oh,
you know,
okay. I was wondering
there
where
was
it came
always
from.
that was always kind of what I had the fight team. I was making those shirts, you know, back in the day, and it was always the plan.
Yeah.
That was always the plan of, like, my gym name was gonna be this.
Right. Okay.
You know, and so once I finally got able to get away from needing a sponsor and able to do my own thing, then that's what we did.
Yeah. And your gym is, you know, Syndicate MMA is based on, you know, great values, unity, collaboration, you know, just like everybody there is like a family and down for one another. Has it always been that way? Has it always been like a part, like what you wanted it to be? Or is it
that
just
was
turned
always
into that?
what I wanted. That was always the game plan. That was always the vision. It wasn't that way for years and years and years. You know, like, I had to grow and learn as a coach, and really grew up doing this. You know, I started 23, 24 years old. I don't know what the fuck I was doing, you know, like, so I had to kind of learn on the job and really grow up, and able to kind of, you know, I was able to, once I really started coaching, get underneath and get around some great coaches. You know, I had Greg Jackson for a few years kind of mentoring me on some things, and just be around some really good people and watch what they do and what to do, what not to do. But it wasn't really until I believed in myself, because a lot of the guys that I ended up coaching out here were guys that I used to get beat up by, you know, in sparring or train with. They were training partners. Yeah. So not only did I have to, like, you know, earn my spot as a coach, but I had to earn the respect of guys that, you know, they were all better than me at the time, or bigger fighters or bigger names, you know, which I ended up almost going back and cornering and coaching all of them towards the end. Yeah. You know, and so it took a long time for me to actually believe that I deserved to be there, and that I knew what I was doing, and it's just learning. Like I said, I was learning, constant learning. But the first 15 years were really, you know, tough that way. We've always done good. We've always had a good gym. We've always won. We've always had a winning record. We've always, you know, there's never been a year where I was like, oh my God, this sucks. You know, like, we always had a good team. You know, that was always the thing. But honestly, the last few years, I'd say the last 3 years, were really where things took a turn. You know, COVID kind of showed me that, holy shit, I wasn't ready to make the jump to handle all of the fighters and all of that level, because a lot of times it was just me. I had some good guys, some good people around, but they weren't really helping coach. There were some big name fighters and some guys that were friends of mine, guys that I came up with, but they weren't really dedicated to coaching. So they were there and it probably causing more problems than not, you know, and guys that really didn't maybe even believe in me as a coach yet. And so I therefore didn't maybe even believe in myself. But like when COVID happened, everybody flooded, you know, and they all came to Vegas. And it turned out to be one of those things where I was like, holy shit, I'm not prepared. Like I need a staff. I need a coaching staff. And so like when we got just tons of guys coming in, kind of upset some of the guys that I had there from that I had brought up for years, you know, and it kind of made an environment where a lot of people were not happy about how, you know, all these new guys were taking attention and this, that, and the other. And so it led to a little bit of turmoil in the gym. You know, we were still doing good, but some of the guys, we had a couple guys that left, you know, we had a couple guys that kind of, you know, went away, and, it really kind of made me take a look at going, okay, shit, I have to do this better. I have to do, if I really want to do this or be considered one of the best ever or have a legacy in this, I have to do everything I can to make this work. And I started reading. I started calling every coach I knew that was doing it better than me and experiencing like, hey, how do you do this when I'd go to fights? Because like I said, we've always had multiple guys in the UFC. It was always been from day one, you know, I've been cornering force. Before that, I think my first fight, one of my first corners was Evan Tanner back in the day, you know, like been cornering for a long time at a high level, you know, so made all these relationships and I started kind of using it. Hey man, what do you do? How do you guys do it here? How do you do this? And became real close with some of these guys and smart. Yeah. And just reading books on leadership and culture. And the biggest thing that I wanted to change was the culture. Yes. You know, I want, and you know how it is now, you come in, the culture, that's one of the top compliments we get is like, man, the vibe here is great. The culture is great. So I ended up having to get rid of a lot of people that were kind of holding me down, a lot of people that were a little bit negative in the gym and frankly, some shitheads, you know, it was just some people that I didn't need to be there.
Bad eggs,
you know, because they really do start to spoil everything around. And cleared house, not restarted, but like started from what I want, implemented my non-negotiables. Here's what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And literally once that started and I kind of took control and put those things into play and put the environment and the people around, everybody showed up at the right time. The coaches, you know, the right coaching staff showed up, the right fighters showed up. And then it's just been blossoming the last couple of years. You see it, it's just boom.
No, yeah.
You know, and it's not that we haven't been doing this for a long time at this level, but we're just doing it better now and just doing it on the highest level. You know, so it really has been the last couple of years where the culture shifted to the way that I believe doing everything I can the right way for the fighters. You know, it isn't about me. It doesn't matter how happy I am or how happy I'm not. If the fighters aren't happy and the fighters aren't getting results, you ain't going to have a job. You know, so that is what, like, people always go, oh, you own your own gym. You're this, you're that. No. I am literally told what to do, when to go, where to go by 75 guys, you know, all the time saying, hey, I need you to show up this time. You know, I'm employed by you. You guys are my employers, you know,
and you are always on the go. Like so, you are like, that's one thing that like is so admirable about you is like, you are like, even though you're successful, you can say kind of, I guess you can say, you know, you made it to the top. Like you're at the top of the mountain, you know, but you're still constantly working. Like you're constantly, you come like, I know that you just get home from Georgia and then you're at pro practice the next day when you probably should be maybe sleeping.
You have to, because you guys know I'm in town, you know? And so when I get home, people are already messaging me on the plane, you know, I'm in town. If I'm not there at practice, there's going to be somebody who's like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like I said, it isn't about me. And I've dedicated my life to making sure it isn't about me. It's about you guys. And if people know the name of our gym and know my name and know whatever, it's because I've done my job and you guys have done your job and you're winning and being successful. And so, you know, I get asked all the time, like, because I'll try to go to every shit show I can. Every podunk, little, whatever, no name show, I don't care.
Yeah.
I try to be there for everybody. Going back to what I said, it is so important to have that. And I don't want to be the kind of coach that just shows up when you make it. You know, that's not how I got here. And I got to keep growing and ascending. And like, it isn't about just having big name, high level guys.
Right.
You've got to keep that pipeline flowing. I've got to keep, like I said, we got 70 fighters right now, 65, 70 pros, and then another 50 amateurs.
Yeah, exactly. High level amateurs.
Yeah, and so
you know, tough enough.
You know,
titles.
that's the thing, is that was another thing we changed a couple of years ago, is getting that AMI practice and getting the AMI team squad, because I want, this is something I want to last forever. You know,
Absolutely.
and if you just rest on your laurels of, I've got a couple champions, I've done this, I've done that, it goes away so quick.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you, we could sit here and name 15 coaches real quick that had great success and aren't doing shit because they thought, or they think, or their ego or whatever comes into play. I've done it. I'm gonna just sit here.
Yeah.
And they can never reproduce. You know, they can never reproduce the success they had, and that's my goal, is to constantly try to reproduce success with you guys. Is not just, I'm not happy with just Merab, I'm not happy with Whaley, I'm not happy with Khalil, or whatever the top guys are. Like, I'm very happy, don't get me wrong, I love it.
Yeah.
But I got to keep that going. Like, you know,
Just
what's
keep
better
building.
than one champ, two champs? What's better than two champs,
Yeah,
three champs?
absolutely.
And it's not the fact of, like, I'm not, you know, I love my life, but I want to leave a legacy for you guys, for my kid, for something that goes past me. You know, and the only way you do that is keep working.
You're one of one as a coach, for sure. Talk about your coaching staff a little bit, because you have an amazing coaching staff. You have it's pretty big, you know,
Yeah.
pretty broad. I think it's really cool to go into a gym and there be so many coaches at the pro practice, and so everybody's getting work. Everybody's getting, you know, getting critiqued and stuff. But it's cool that you are able to have such a big coaching staff and they all remain consistent to keep, you know, elevating an elite team, but they all come from different walks of life. They're all different personalities, different, you know, everything that they add to the table. So talk to me about your coaching staff a bit.
Yeah,
How,
you know, I
you
said
created this.
that it kind of came out of, everybody came in the right time in the right place at the right time. And it's hard because you can't bring in any coach off the street if you don't have a relationship. You always run the risk of, one, I've done it myself, you bring a coach in, you hire them, they come in and they're great for 6 months and then whatever, or they try to steal your students, or they try to open their own thing, or they try to do this or try to do that, and it always creates some kind of turmoil in the gym, and there's always somebody who got close to that guy, and they leave, and daddy, you know, and then you break hearts, and so I try to mitigate that kind of those kind of issues now. So you've got to be very particular on how you find coaches. Obviously, in the next few years, I think we'll have some guys that are going to retire from from fighting, and those are guys that I want to bring in to coaching staff.
Okay, that makes
There's guys
sense.
that are, you know, maybe at the tail end that's where I really want to start. That's when things really start, I think, changing for us, you know, is bringing our own group of guys
Someone
in.
from the inside.
That's where I'm super excited.
Okay.
But right now, let's say, you know, Dom Paula-Harris is a guy who, you know, I hired years ago at the front desk. In fact, in my phone, it still says front desk Dom. You know, like, it doesn't say Coach Dom, it says front desk Dom.
Really? I did not know
So
he was the front desk.
He worked at the front desk, you know, and Dom's a super cool guy, kind of nerd, but like I love him to death, you know.
He's a great coach.
But yeah, and so, you know, he came in and then he ended up quitting, but he still came in and training. And about a year ago, you know, I noticed him training a lot, and then I noticed him holding pads a lot, and then I noticed him kind of working and going to these, you know, tournaments and doing things, and he was just in the gym all the time, and I saw him holding pads, and I was like, you can hold pads pretty good, you know, like there was things where I was starting to go, and so I went up and I had a conversation with him. I said, hey, dude, like, you thinking about wanting to do this sometime or be a coach? And he was like, you know, absolutely. He's like, he's like, I want to be considered, you know, I want to be considered a good coach one day, you know, and he even named off a guy. He's like, I want to be better than that guy. And I said, well, that's not too hard to do. we can do that. But he was really into it. So I said, okay, you know, and I just he started shadowing, and I started watching with the guys. I kind of have a method of how I bring the guys in now, and I'll work with a guy and then put him with somebody, put him with Dom for a few rounds, back to me, and get everybody kind of familiar.
Okay.
And just tried it out for a few months, and man, like that's been one of the like biggest diamond in the rough guys that I've found. Who he just got Syndicate tattoo on his leg, so he's a lifer now, bro. Like he just got stock in the company, and so. It's guys like that I would have never thought in a million years. But like having that eye, it kind of, like I said, took a shot, and it's been fantastic, and he's turned out to be one of our best coaches, and I think will be one of the better coaches in years to come.
No, I couldn't agree
he's
more.
awesome. And, same thing, Max Suarez, was out here and coming in and just training and doing jiu-jitsu. And, again, we started talking one day, and I watched him hold pads, and I was like, damn, dude, like pretty good at
he is good on pads.
Holding pads. And then just listening to him talk and doing some things. And I went to him one day and I said, hey, you have any interest in doing this? He's like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. And so here we are, fast forward a year later, man, fantastic coach, and really killing it. He's great for the team. He's a great coach. He's great knowledge. Very good skill set. Shane Shapiro was, Jerry and Shane, they run our jiu-jitsu program. Shane's, kind of stepping up into the grappling, coach aspect, and phenomenal black belt, phenomenal competitor. And these are all guys that are still growing. And I think in the next few years, they're going to be some of the top coaches in the game, and hopefully the guys that I can hand this off to, because my ass is getting old and beat up. So, I got to have some guys, and still we're looking. I want to add a couple more. The only, as the team grows, the coaching staff has to grow. As the coaching staff, the infrastructure, the building has to grow. Right now we're working on some big things with hopefully doing a deal with, landing the whole building. And
so some expansion.
I'm in the process of trying to buy the whole building right now and see if we can get that and expand to, taking that, because love that area. So, and if it's not, if that deal doesn't get done, then, we're going to have to, we're busting at the seams right now.
We are. We really are.
Not only just with the fighters, but the staff.
Yeah.
I mean, the regular people, like, we've got almost 1,000 students right now.
Yeah, it's always full.
Crazy.
All the classes are full.
So things are going great, man. But just everybody's kind of come in, from the coaches, from just even the regular classes, like Jerry and Shane taking over the jiu-jitsu, and just all the guys we have in kids classes, our kids coaches. It's really popping right now. And so it's tough to get there, but it's tougher to keep it going. So we just got to keep, it's constantly.
But that's what's great too, is like, obviously, like I said, you're an amazing coach, but it's cool. And you're always there. Like you show up, you're always there no matter what, tired or not. But you see that with all the other coaches as well.
They're there before me now. And just like this weekend. So this week we've got, I think, 8 fighters fighting the next 10 days.
Really?
2 in Abu Dhabi,
my gosh.
and then all over the country.
Yeah. You got San Diego.
We got San Diego. We got Texas, New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
PFL,
then,
right, too. That's soon.
And then somewhere else. I mean, they're all over.
Yeah.
So like we had a meeting. We have a coaches meeting every week. We sit down. Hey, you've got this. You've got this. You got this. You got this. Okay, who's staying home? Like
who's running the
and that's the other thing. That's the other thing, is making sure that home has to be taken care of too. So after this trip, really my goal is to make it to where, the fighters are going to have to start like making sure they're going out with training partners. We send some of the other coaches out, but like, I never want to abandon what we have going on the mats.
Absolutely.
That has to stay strong. So we can't just disappear, and everybody can't just do this stuff. So making sure, and it's gotten better. It used to be when I would leave, it'd go from 40 or 50 to 10, or whatever. And now it's, going from 50 or 60 to 40, 30, the numbers are still good, but anytime you leave, sometimes people are, coach isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is a testament though. Like the guys are coming in, they believe in the training, and they're getting,
even without the head coach,
head coach. And, and so, like I said, we're still looking to add, I want a couple more coaches to make sure that we're solidifying everything.
Right.
But it's been great top to bottom. And even with JoJo, my wife retiring and running up front now and taking care of that stuff.
Keeping the gym.
She's killing it. It's nice to be able to go away and know that there's that set of eyes on there that obviously 100% trust. It's a little tough when we both go away. We went away this weekend for 3 or 4 days and come home and we're just like, oh my God.
Come back to a little bit of mess.
It's a lot. And no matter what, even if it's still things went good, it's just you're good and busier, like stepping away from the gym with both of us is tough, but everything's heading in the right direction, man.
Absolutely. And having this, this elite staff of coaches is, a reason why your mats are full with such high level athletes. You've got a lot of the UFC roster on your mats, as well as, other high level promotions. Yeah. And we spoke about it earlier, being a coach of Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah. It's a tough
Dvalishvili. One. Yeah. Khalil Roundtree, also just coming off of a nice, vicious win. Yep. Zhang Wei Li. Tell me though how you adapt to your how you adapt your coaching to each of these high level fighters, because obviously you got Merab, who is a strong wrestler, grappler, coming crazy, but then you've got a clinical masterpiece striker like Khalil Roundtree. So how do you adapt to each fighter? It's
always been something that has been fairly easy for me to going back to where I didn't come up with one style. I didn't come up under one coach. I didn't come up that this is the way and this is the only way.
Right.
So I had a lot of different ways, and then figuring that out really early on of going, hey man, you've got to be whatever this person needs you to be. You've got to be. And that's why you have to be a well-rounded coach. If you don't know, like there's all kinds of specialty coaches, and I ain't shitting on nobody's game. Like you want to be a specialty coach, okay, you're fine, but just know you're a specialty coach. You're a boxing coach.
Stay in your lane.
You're a Muay Thai coach. You're a jiu-jitsu coach. If you don't understand how to strike and how to strike into taking down and then what happens in that process, you're not an MMA coach. You are a specialty coach, and that's totally okay. Right. But you get these guys that, hey, you got to do it this way because this is the only, well, that's all you know, dude. I already know, like this guy who's been training 2 years in MMA knows more than your 20 years of whatever you did in MMA. Like you've got to know everything and being able to adapt to whatever that person needs. I tell people all the time, like, if you want to come in and you're a kung fu fighter, my job is to make you a better kung fu fighter. It's better. It's better to shore up whatever those little things to be able for you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you're a great striker, I want to keep you a great striker while elevating your ground game and your defense.
You're not trying to change people.
You're trying to change anybody. You have to adapt to make better what they need. And a lot of times during that process, things evolve and change, and a fighter who wasn't this way now becomes this way because you fixed some footwork issues, you did some things a little bit different, and unlocks this door. Like I would have never in a million years thought that me and Merab would have the relationship we have and the success that we have, just because when I first saw him, he's been at the gym for over 5 years now.
Really?
Yeah, he's been a long time.
Wow,
long time. And so,
I know he was kind of like bouncing, and now I
he
remember
moved
when he's
full-time.
Like so full, like he settled.
But
He's
that was like, that's been happening for like 5 years.
Yeah.
He's been in Vegas for that long, and he was going back. It was the Jose Aldo fight. I think he was still going back and forth. And after Jose Aldo, he's been here full time.
And that says so much that he was like, this is home right now.
And I remember he was, even before that fight, he was there a couple fights before Jose Aldo, bouncing back and forth. And then after that, he was like, I kind of let him figure it out that he wanted to be there, and he would hang around, and I'm like, okay. And then one day he came and he's like, Coach, this is where I want to be. This is home base. Said, okay, let's go. He's like, can we start working? Absolutely. But when we started working, it was so different. And I've said this on a million interviews, that his thought process, how he learns, how he trains, is so different than anybody I've seen. I remember like seeing him in the back when he first got there. He'd be teaching technique, and he'd just be in the back sparring somebody already. When we're just, we're learning how, we're striking into a takedown, and he'd just be hammer fisting somebody, whatever. And I'm like,
He's
okay,
wild.
He doesn't listen. This guy's not going to listen. And then, I would come back or watch him spar the next day, and he would be doing the technique that he wasn't paying attention to at all. He'd be doing the techniques perfect. Okay. So maybe he was paying attention. And then later down the road, as we would start to like even hit pads or do privates and do technical stuff, I felt like he's got what I call MMA ADD. He's got the MMA ADD where he's not paying attention, but he's receiving everything. So I can teach this guy anything, or we can go over a process, and he'll be kind of like, okay. and come back the next day in sparring, do it live perfectly.
Really?
Yeah. And so I started really figuring out, I'm like, okay, this guy is paying attention. It's just different. So I had to kind of let him do his process instead of like, hey, do it this way, let him do it. And so there's very few times where I stop Merab from being like, hey, dude, are you paying attention? Even though it seems like he's not, he is. And I swear he will do something. We will do it one night, come in, on a Tuesday night, do our technical stuff for the fight. He'll come back the next sparring day and just do it perfect. And even though like half the time he was kind of doing the technique or he's sparring, and so it's just everybody's different. Everybody learns different. And there's some guys that pick it up like that. Like Wei Lee, you teach her one time, you show her one time, she's doing it perfect by the second
really?
time. Third time.
Wow.
Dead ass perfect. Like you don't even got to say nothing. And she is meticulous.
And that's another thing is adapting to like to different personalities. Merab's wild all over the place. And she's just like probably like to the book.
It's funny. Put those two together and have them go at it. But yeah, everybody learns different. And it's our job to be able to figure that out. And it's my job if somebody else, and that's where I want to be with the coaching staff. If somebody else works better with this person, then that's who I want them to be with. I can still oversee and work and we can work together, but everybody's going to find their way and find their person. And that's what we're trying to do is like, I don't need to be the number one for everybody. I will be if that's the case, but like, there's only so much of me. So we've got to start, making these guys with Dom and Max, they got to be the lead, and they are. They're taking the lead. They're cornering. Like I said, we're all going to be gone in the next 2 weeks. Different places, cornering different people, doing different things.
Right.
And I guarantee you, the way things have been going, we'll probably come out pretty good shape.
Yeah.
We haven't been losing much.
We've been doing so good.
And so that's the goal is just you've got to learn how people learn, and you've got to take your ego out of it.
That's
and
really
say,
cool. You don't hear that often,
you've got to say, okay, there's something going on here where they're getting it or they're not getting it, and I've got to figure it out. And that's what makes coaching so awesome.
Yeah,
it's always a puzzle that you got to try to solve.
And then you see the success. They come out with the win, and you're like, yes.
Highest to the highs and lowest to the lows. Because for me, I always want to have a hand in whether they win or they lose. If someone loses, which I'd never want that to happen, but I'm gonna be like, damn it, that was on me, or I should have. Like I could have done this. I don't ever want to just be like, well, I didn't, that's all you.
That was you.
You've got to take the highs and the highs, and you've got to be there for the good and the bad.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about Merab, obviously coming off of a big win versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. This was the second win. I know that you had I listened to an interview or something of you saying the game plan for this was different. Like, no, we're going to go out there and get the finish. Talk to me kind of about that a little bit.
Well, Merab is one of those people that once you get him to believe in something and get him to trust you, then it's all steam ahead, like full steam ahead, 100% go. You get him, whether it's a move, whether it's a scenario, whether it's a fight, whether it's, helping him out on business decisions with the UFC. Hey, do it this way. And once he believes or sees that that's okay, then he's going to do it. So it took me years, let's say starting with the Peter Yan fight, where it's like, I'm like, bro, you could finish that guy. Like there's moments in from Peter Yan on, there's moments where in each one of those fights, the fighter didn't want to be there anymore. There's like, fuck, just get this little guy off me, man. Stop it. He's just annoying. And there's moments where even in every fight, and I'm not saying they even thought that consciously, but that subconscious was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Here's my neck or here's my arm. Like, there's times where he could have got those guys out of there. He really could have. There was moments, Cejudo, for sure.
And you think he's just having fun?
And he's just having fun. That wasn't his goal. He had already been kind of, in his own mind, I'm not a finisher, I'm a grinder. And so that was his goal. Because there's things where he just like, you would see, after Yan, he would take people down, and he would take them down and let them up. Take them down and let them up. Now that's exhausting. But what's more exhausting is take somebody down and make them struggle to get out, hold, threaten, hit. And that's where we started implementing that in Cejudo. And once he started kind of buying into that, it was like, hey, dude, listen, you just got to start looking for some submissions, and we can get there. I guarantee you, start looking to do these things. And I promise you'll end up, trust me, And even when he fought O'Malley, when we won the belt, there was moments where O'Malley's neck was sticking up. There's moments where he's got that guillotine. He's laughing to the crowd. He's talking to Mark Zuckerberg. He's doing whatever. It's like, dude, pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, like just stay in it. MMA ADD. Stay in it. You know, I promise you'll get there. Same thing with Umar. There was points where, you know, like there's a point I could point to every moment in those fights where I'm like, dude, you could finish these guys. And so that was just something really, after the O'Malley fight, we really started working on is finishes. Now, it wasn't like, hey, this is the goal.
Right.
But I need you to know that it's there. If it's there, you got to start looking for it. You got to start taking those opportunities. And so that's when after, you know, Umar, I was like, listen, dude, you know, we can go back. All these guys, we're going to have to fight probably almost every guy that you've already fought. We're going to have to fight him again, a couple of them. We're going to fight O'Malley. We're going to fight, you know, Umar again at some point in time. We're going to fight Jan again. You know, like there's guys that are at the top.
Do you think there'll be a trilogy O'Malley or no? Okay.
For what? Like, no. I mean, who knows? Like the UFC might, but I think that ship has sailed, you know? No. I mean, we'll take it. I think that's free money.
Yeah.
You know, we'll take it. But, yeah, you know, so it's just start looking. So we have them on the mats, just running scenarios, hey, man, the neck pops up. Just throw your arm around and see what happens. And even if you don't get it, they have to bail and it puts you in a better position.
Right.
So we just started working it. And it took me about a year to convince him. It took me about a year, literally. And I even told him in O'Malley, in O'Malley, I was like, listen,
stubborn,
man.
huh?
I was like, you're going to be in positions where he's going to give you something. Start looking for it. Just know. And so just giving him the key to start looking. Not even anything specific.
Yeah.
A lot of chokes, a lot of guillotines, a lot of chokes. The thing he hit on O'Malley was literally, we did not even that choke, but a scenario the week before on the mats of like, hey, the guy turns over, go for a north-south in this. And he made his own variation of just being in that mindset of the guy, when you go for this and he spins and he just set it up and nailed that. You know, that was something that, just a scenario of him seeing and experiencing it. And that was something, like I said, I think it's going to be there. Like that kind of pressure that he brings, it makes people want to go, I don't, you know,
look for the way out.
And if we don't get the way out, we don't get the sub, you're going to win the fight.
Yeah.
It just make it that much more painful for somebody, make it that much more tiring. There's nothing worse than a guy laying on top of you, hitting you, than a guy laying on top of you, hitting you and trying to submit you. Now you got, oh my God, you know? And not to mention, he's out striking these guys on their feet.
Dude,
it's amazing
to see.
He's rocking these guys.
Yeah.
He rocked O'Malley. We just didn't have time to see it because he rocked him and took his ass right down, you know?
So is that something you guys have created together when you got, when Merab came?
100%.
Was it like, how was his, like
I
striking
tell you,
there?
if your striking is this and your grappling is this, my goal isn't to do this, which eventually kind of sets this. My goal is to keep everything elevating to hopefully someday this maybe catches up.
Okay.
But we're making everything better. You cannot, this is MMA.
Right.
You cannot be one dimensional. You cannot go, I'm just going to take you down. Eventually somebody's going to figure that out. If all they have to worry about, right before he subbed O'Malley, DC's on, well, you know, Sean just needs to get up because there is no submission threat here. You know, Merab is not a submission guy. Oh my God. You know, you know, it's literally 30 seconds later, he chokes him out. But that's the process think that. I don't want you to think. If you watch, go back and watch Merab's fights because he does some sneaky little shit. He does shit that you, if I broke down a fight for you and said, hey, we're doing this to do this, you'd be like, oh my God, watch Umar, go back and watch Umar. Every time we break or get in, it's just a sneaky little body shot, ripping hard body shots. That was something we worked on. Hey, start beating these fuckers' bodies up.
Yeah.
You know, and just get them in weird times. Get them when they're leaving. Get them when they're getting in. Get them whenever you can. You know, he dropped a couple guys today with body shots.
So underrated,
practice,
honestly.
you know,
the body
and it just
work.
it's just all those little things. And he's just putting it together. Like, it may not look pretty. It's starting to kind of look pretty, actually. But,
it is.
But
I agree.
there's so much to his game that's just, I love watching. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry about that. My mother.
You can answer the music.
So being a cornerman is obviously a skill, you know, in and of itself, to be a good one anyway. But being, you know, Merab Dvalishvili's cornerman is a different ballgame, I'm sure. So can you kind of walk me through, you know, your cornerman communication with him, like, or I mean, all your fighters in general, how you adapt to that as well? Because obviously it's not one size fits all.
No, everybody's different. Same thing as coaching, you know, teaching. Some people like to be yelled at. Some need the intensity. Some people want to, hey, you know. But like the moral of the story for me is get the information to the fighter of whatever it is they need, get it to it and clear and concise. And don't just, we're not there. There's so many guys I cannot stand in this coaching culture right now that are saying shit just to hear themselves talk. Hey, go get him, champ. And talking, talk to your inner child and get this thing going. It's like, shut the fuck up. Just tell them what they need to do, dude, or they're yelling at him or berating him. And maybe that's what that person needs. I don't know. But I hear so many guys say what they want to say to make themselves, sound good on TV or whatever. But it really comes down to what that person needs when you're in the fight. I always tell people we are there to fill in the blanks. As a coach, I'm there to hopefully just fill in those blank moments where you're going, the fuck do I do? Let's put a jab out there. Let's level change. Let's feint. And then that hopefully gets you going back on track. There's some fighters I literally walk through an entire fight. You'll hear me every time if I'm corner, I'm always the loudest guy. Hey, just stay calm, breathe, move. Giving information that's clear and concise. And then obviously between rounds, you have a short period of time. So you got a good, bad, and different. Try to recenter the fighter. Merab's a real funny one because we got a lot going on in that corner. There's a lot going on in that corner.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so, you get your second, but it's funny because you tell him what to do, and then Merab will repeat it back to you. He's like, okay, so I go over the jab, I level change, I get in, go hit it, blah, blah, blah.
Really?
He'll repeat it back to you, then go out there and do it. So he's great, but everybody's a little bit different, and you just have to stay calm. If you lose your shit, they're gonna lose your shit. And that was one thing I learned really early on, even before coaching. When crazy things happen in my life, like bad, crazy things where I'm like, oh my God, that person just died or something happened. I always had the ability to just super calm. Never there's times in my life where I was like, man, I should be crying right now. That's pretty sad. And I'd cry later.
Yeah.
I go back, but in the moments I would just lock down stone cold, be focused on whatever is going on. And that's how it is in the corner, even cornering my wife. Like it's no different. Just lock down. Here's the job. And the crowd doesn't matter who the crowd, how loud, how crazy it is. You're just there to do a job.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was a question I wanted to ask. Like how, obviously she's your, for first coaching other people, but your wife, and then at this level.
Yeah.
What is that like, and how do you keep calm? Was there ever moments that you wanted to, like you were panicking like inside, but you were like, can't show it?
No.
Really?
No, I don't panic. Afterwards, I'll feel it afterwards. Really? After she would fight, I'd be like, oh God, okay, that's good. But never before. And I think that's just a way is like, you can't have that kind of panic for anybody.
Right.
And you're that person's rock, and especially your wife, who's leaning on you in a little bit a different way. Like she's a very strong fighter. She's a very strong-willed fighter. There was times where, there was one time we had the Valentina fight. She had the championship fight, and Valentina pulled out 3 times. And we ended up, it was right during COVID. I fucking actually was in bed sick with COVID. And she's laying next to me. And we got a call from the UFC, and the UFC says, hey, Valentina's out indefinitely. We don't know. It's the 3rd time.
Really?
So she'd been out for almost a year waiting for that title fight.
Oh my gosh.
And in retrospect, we should have just kept waiting. But they're like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I don't want to wait anymore. And I said, I agree. We need to go out and get a fight. 2 days later, they call us and say, hey, so-and-so's fight broke out or fell off. Do you want to fight Jennifer Maia on 2 weeks notice or something like that, or whatever it was, short notice. So we said, sure. And went in there, and the day of the fight, Joe's usually I can always tell she's, there's when she's ready to kill and ready to go and focused. The day was just low energy. She was just didn't really feel like warming up. I could just tell she was leaning on me, and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. But you still gotta, you gotta, until the fighter says something to you, you can't be like, hey,
you don't want to bring it up.
Hey, are you okay? Yeah. You look like dog shit, and then they're gonna go, oh yeah. And so you don't want to put that out there, but I could just tell. And so she went out there, fought, and ended up getting armbarred, and just everything was off. And then she came back. We went back to the medicals, and she fell down and collapsed, passed out.
Oh my
so
goodness.
they strip everything off, and her heart rate had dropped 20 something. Yeah, and so I was like, holy shit. Now I'm freaking out. So they wheel her out to the ambulance. They put her in the back of the ambulance. I'm in the front. and we're not leaving because they had to wait for the second person to be able to come because they needed 2 back there. And I'm like, why? Let's just go. And they're like, well, we have to have 2 in case her heart stops. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Her heart stops. She just got armbarred, you know? And they're like, no, well, something else is going on. Her heart rate has dropped to like under 30 and we can't, you know, she's about to like
wow,
flatline.
my gosh.
So found out like she was coming down with COVID. She had fought with COVID. She didn't have it and her whole system was just whacked off. And so she'd gotten COVID and it just reacted and her lungs and everything shut down. So, you know, I think 3 days later, she's boom in the bed, just out. But like that one was scary. And there's moments like that where obviously after you're just like, holy shit. But going back to coaching, you know, it's just in those moments you have to be there. The only time I've ever really gotten, I can say this, nervous was the first O'Malley Merab fight.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's the first time I ever felt it because it was at the Sphere.
Ooh, yeah. I want to talk about that too. What that was like, that atmosphere.
You're literally watching every single day, the countdown, embedded. People are filming. You're watching every single person on TV going, Merab's going to die.
And he's a sniper. You're going to knock him out.
He's not getting out of the first round and you're watching it and you're watching yourself and you're watching this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like, is Merab going to die? Like, have I done a shitty job here? Like, oh my God, I don't think we're ready for Merab. We should not do this. Right. You know, like it gets to a point where you're just like, what? I don't know. So you're literally at that level, you're watching yourself. You're watching the stuff that's going on in the gym. You're watching them. You're watching every analyst. Every single analyst picked O'Malley in that first fight.
Wow.
Every one of them. Every single one of them. All the guys on the desk, Taddy Atlas, all these guys that are so new, whatever. I was like, nah, I think we're good. I don't see it. I do not see it. And we were the favorites going, when the fight got booked, we were the favorites. It flipped and everybody, you know, O'Malley became the favorite at the end. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And I remember it actually worked out to our advantage. Because like a week before I started feeling this, like, what the, like, am I not seeing something that like, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
I don't see this. I went back and I started watching all of Merab's fights and I was just like, oh my God, no, we're going to kill this guy. Like, this is going to be fucking easy. And I picked up a couple things just from that week and I went to Merab and I said, hey, and we came up with a couple code words. And those code words actually helped lead us to that fight in that week from just feeling that like pressure. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, it worked out great. But even driving to the Sphere, I remember going, oh my God, this is crazy. Because we didn't know, we weren't allowed to be in there. You know, and you walk in, and you're just like, oh my God, it was crazy.
Yeah, what was that?
It was the craziest
atmosphere. What was that walkout like?
It was the craziest atmosphere. You walk out and there's 100-foot Merab and 100-foot O'Malley with like Aztec warriors and people shooting spears at you. You're like, what the fuck? What is going on here? Like
that would be so hard to focus.
It was crazy. It was crazy. The whole experience was crazy, and so. But like I knew going back, like I said, and watching, and I've just learned to do that. Go back and I watch my fighters' fights all fight week, especially in these big fights. And it really, I'm like, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
And that fight, like as soon as he hit that first takedown, I was like, oh, we're fine.
Yeah.
Because everybody knock on Merab was like, oh, he's chinny. I'm like, he's been rocked in one fight. What are you talking about? Chinny? And Moraes had his ass wobbled, but most of Merab's things, Cejudo rocked him. No, Cejudo hit him and he was off balance. That was one of the biggest things, was fixing Merab's footwork. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most of the issues come from footwork. And once Merab's footwork has gotten fixed, now he can take a punch and it doesn't look crazy. He can move. He can, like, he out times all these people. His timing, his rhythms, his everything were so crazy. And that was, that was part of the thing getting into that, where I was like, I don't think O'Malley's going to get to him. And then once we got in there, I was like, we're golden.
All that went away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. You've obviously cornered thousands of people, right? I know that everybody's kind of crazy in the back. Like, people have their own thing. Well, who would you say has like been the craziest or done the craziest shit you've seen in the back? Some people are hitting themselves, screaming. Can you think of something?
Oh man. Yeah, there's all kinds of like, geez. I remember Forrest was always pretty crazy.
Yeah. I can see that.
Being in the back, like he would yell and scream at me sometimes. Like when you were warming him up, you better warm him up the way he wanted to be warmed up. So I remember like back, like grabbing, I was doing something and I remember I grabbed his leg too hard and you know, not even too hard, but I was just giving him a good look. I think he was fighting Tito or something. He stopped. He's like, stop it. Starts screaming, you dummy. Ah! Like I thought he was going to like kill me, you know, in the back. And he like flips out for like 2 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. You know, and then we would continue on. Yeah. But like he was always a mental case. Merab is one of my favorites because he will literally fight harder in the back. He'll have a 5-round sparring match with Aljo. And I feel bad for Aljo.
Oh my gosh.
Because like Aljo can't, you know, he's got to like kind of let him do his thing. And he is beating the piss out of him. Like Aljo's, you know, fight back, being a good training partner, but like they go hard.
Wow.
Like I don't, he that's all he does for his warm up. He'll stretch, he'll flow. He will do a 5-round fight before he goes out and does a 5-round fight. And that's the crazy thing that people understand. Is like, you want to talk about cardio? Like he's already done this.
Yeah.
And he did it harder than what he's doing now.
Right.
Like he's just so crazy prepared. Like that's one of the ones where I'm just like, dude, like really?
Yeah.
You know, and I
that's
mean,
so cool. Like, you know, you get to work so close handed with these crazy athletes.
I don't see it anymore, and the names will stay, you know, unnamed, but I've seen people do blow before their fights.
Really?
I've seen people get drunk.
Wow.
I've seen people do shots. I've seen people snort pain pills. I'm like,
yeah,
not so much anymore because you test for all that shit, but I've been like,
damn, that's wild to
really
think.
Like you're gonna do what? Like, okay. I mean, I've seen it all. Like
I've heard Pratha smokes a cigarette before he goes out.
Yeah, I've seen guys smoke cigarettes. I've seen guys smoke I mean, it's crazy. Like it's all kind of settled down now, and everybody, the level of professionalism has caught up
absolutely
a little bit. So there's nothing, I can't think of anything too crazy other than like some Merab these days.
Okay.
You know, I've seen guys run sprints as hard as they can. Everybody has a little bit of a different thing, but nothing too
Yeah. So after the Merab fight, you guys went on a Georgian tour to Georgia. Talk to me about that. That looked amazing.
That was probably one of the coolest trips I've ever been on in my life.
It looked so wholesome.
Yeah, I almost didn't go just because we had so many more fights and things, and I didn't want to be away from. I ended up being away from the gym for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, and then you were literally back in the next day when you got to town. I remember I was like, "What is he not sleeping?"
I flew after Merab's fight. I flew home for a day to see my wife and kid, and come to practice for a day. You know, so I went to practice to just show up. Hey guys, here, and then flew back to New York the next day. Met up with Merab, and then we flew to Georgia.
Dude, I don't know how you do that.
Man, that was one of the craziest things. It was the craziest. It was the craziest trip I've ever been on.
Really?
Greatest trip I've ever been on as far as like fight experience. You know, it's just like a once in a lifetime thing where you show up at the airport and it's just like the shit you see on TV. Like it's like the Beatles.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, he had 20 cops around him, but they're just swarming, the people crushing. There's bands playing, there's horse and carriages and people chasing the bus. Like we finally made it out at the door and got into this bus, and there's, people and like just running after him, screaming. Like I said, like he's just the hero. He's the hero of that country. People chasing you and then showing up in a park and thousands of people to do this meet and greet, and just even like with me, like just want to touch you, tackle you, like autograph, anything.
They loved you.
I mean, they loved all of us. It was crazy. Like the Georgian people are amazing. It's such a cool city. The structure, architecture, the like, just there's so much culture there, and it's so different than anywhere else. I didn't know what to expect. It was beautiful. The people were so nice. The food was great. Everything was just amazing. And it was really, really awesome to see a whole country get behind, a guy that really does love his country. I mean, the Georgians are proud, man. They're proud people, and they deserve to be. And it was really, really cool to, like, everywhere you just went, it was just like somebody, we did talks at schools, we did all kinds of cool stuff, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of good people on that trip, and Nina Drama was there.
Yeah, you got to go with Nina.
Got to go with Nina, and she's amazing.
I met her briefly, like, a couple weeks ago. She is a sweetheart.
She really is a good soul and a person that, like, you might see some of the bullshit. I know she takes a lot of shit, and there's just assholes in the world, but she is, like, when you get to know her, like, she's a good person.
After meeting her, I'm like, I can't think people say, like, talk
She's great.
She's amazing.
She's great.
She's like a ray of sunshine.
Yeah,
like her energy.
She really is. She's got great energy. She was so fun to be on the trip, and just overall, like I said, a good person.
Yeah.
So it was a great trip to be on.
That's so cool.
And then straight from there to Azerbaijan.
Yeah, with Nas. Oh my gosh, dude, that's what I mean.
Khalil.
And Khalil, yeah, that's crazy. Like to just doing all this traveling that you're doing, you know, like and I don't know how you stay afloat. You know,
either. It's tough. It's very
passion.
Tough. It's tough.
Literally, just
it
passion.
really is. Like I was talking to somebody today. The thought of like I still try to train. I still try to. I lift.
Yeah.
I try to lift weights every morning, but I want to get in
grappling.
jiu-jitsu, and I love jiu-jitsu, and I love to spar still. I like to move around with the guys and have fun, and there's nothing better than the stress relief of punching somebody else in the face. So like that's something I try to stay up with.
Absolutely.
But like there's a point in time now where we're so busy that like, I did jiu-jitsu last week, and then I was walking around like this for like, it's like, oh God, I gotta get up in bed. And my wife's like, what are you doing, man? It's like, nothing, babe.
You're like, I need Emily.
Jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And so there's a point in time where it's like, you just have to start to manage. I'm so busy. I'm going to get my cardio. I'm not going to be the fat coach for a while, but I want to be someday. That'd be nice. But you just have to kind of put those things aside. Like it's not worth me anymore taking the risk of getting hurt and then being out, like
Right.
if I tweak something, which almost every time I do, I'm 46 years old this year, so it ain't getting any easier. And, you just have to start really managing everything,
Right.
everything. We were talking, I was my wife before this, like we have to manage, hey, we're scheduling date night. Hey, we're scheduling this. Like we're so busy that everything has to kind of be run through the schedule,
Yeah.
And Emily, my assistant Emily, she's awesome. She, she basically books everything for me. I just say, hey, here's my schedule. If there's nothing booked, you can book everything through these times. And, and she does an awesome job of helping me kind of, between her and my wife, like they just tell me where to go and when to do it.
Yeah, that's so nice. Like you can't you can't run it on your own.
It's
like
tough.
there's no way.
It
takes a village.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. So you were voted Georgian MMA Coach of the Year. You laugh at that. Do you feel like it's a joke, or do you?
No. I mean, it was awesome. Like,
what did that award mean to you?
That was great. Like,
that's so cool.
It was awesome thing. They had it was a voting process, and it's
that's
a
amazing.
big thing over there. ProPix is a big site over there, and I mean, I thought I was pretty much a shoo-in. I was the guy with the Georgian fighter, so I'm gonna win it.
Right.
But there's a lot of talk of maybe being the not Georgian Coach of the Year. We'll see. Those things.
Dude, I think so.
Those things, like, who knows? Like if it happens, it would be awesome. It doesn't define or refine me as a person or a coach, but like obviously those kind of things, like I said earlier, the accolades that you get, if you're getting them for the right reason, and people are talking about that kind of stuff, or, I'd love to get us, Gym of the Year. That'd be my goal.
Yeah.
That's what I really would love is Gym of the Year. I think Fighter of the Year is a slam dunk. He already won the ESPY, the ESPN Fighter of the Year.
Yes,
got
that's
that.
amazing.
So I imagine he's probably a shoe-in for the MMA awards, and who knows, Fighter of the Year, Fight of the Year with Nazim. Nazim and Moda was an amazing fight. That's got to be up for it.
Wow.
And if Coach of the Year happens, then that would be cool.
Yeah. No, I don't think you're far behind, honestly.
So I mean, it's crazy to even be talking about those things. But,
like you said, like here we are,
Yeah.
like all this that you thought of, and then here you are.
Yeah, like when you start to kind of look at it as reality, it's okay. And you just can't lose sight. And like I said, you always have to be looking to do, what you can do better. How can I do it better?
Absolutely.
If I do get that, how can I do it better next year? How can I do it better? The next fight. That's what it's always got to be. Is this game is always evolving.
It's so cool. It's so cool to be on the outside witnessing it. Honestly.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a couple Instagram questions. I posted a little something yesterday and got a couple. So let's see. Who is the meanest fighter in the gym?
Ooh. Meanest as in when it comes to sparring time, or meanest just as a mean, nasty person?
I'm gonna say, give me both. I don't know. Let's just keep it clean. We'll go with the first one.
Oh man, the girls are always very mean to each other. The girls just, you guys are always so feisty. Like, especially if the girl's going with a guy, like you always, like there's some girls in there that I won't name, but like you always feel like you can just smash a guy as hard as you want, and it hurts. Like, your girls got to understand, like,
they still hit hard.
You know how to fight.
Yeah.
Like, it's not one of those things. The girls, there's some mean girls in there.
Yeah.
You know, Khalil might be one of the less pleasant people to spar. Not because he's a dick.
Yeah.
But I mean,
he's just sharp.
He's just sharp and like
accurate.
That guy will get you. I would say, honestly, like the things I watch Merab do to people. Merab is the nicest, meanest guy I think in the whole gym. Like, he's just so. When he turns it on, like, he is one of the rougher guys, like, especially as he's evolving in the last few camps. You know, we've had to bring in more and more sparring partners because he's not a dick. He just goes.
Right.
And when you go with him, like, if you take it up and try to win, then he's going to take it up.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that never gets out of control, never gets out of hand. But he is probably, you know, obviously one of the rougher goes. I will say, I think the meanest that I've seen who beats up on their sparring partners a lot, she goes with guys, is Whaley. Like, she
Ooh, really?
thumps.
I could see that.
She thumps on her sparring. They're all guys, and every time I watch them spar, I'm just like, oh, God, no, don't. Mm-hmm. I've had a couple broken bones from her, not from sparring, but just even pads, and just, she's intense, man.
Really?
Yeah, and again, not a dick.
Is her power intense?
Not a dick. Oh, man. Pound for pound.
Really?
I think
wow.
she's got to be one of the strongest, sharpest, fastest, like, nastiest fighters. And that's why, like I said, she doesn't go with, like, in camps, it's all guys because
girls, like, can't really handle it.
It's not that they can't, but it's we need bigger guys that can absorb a little bit more. It's just hard. Like, she's probably one of the nastier persons to go with.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. All right. Number 2, who has the best hair in the gym?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, gosh, Shane and Dom just cut theirs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Brandon Jenkins. I think Brandon Jenkins has the ultimate mullet right now. It's blonde, it's flowy, it's amazing. You know, it's like one of those things where you're just like, ooh, it's a showstopper. Like, he walks in and you're just like,
and when he's striking, and it's
oh
just like,
yeah, you know, when he's competing, he's flowing all over. Like right here, you can see it. Like he's on my water bottle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so, exactly. That's exactly what it looks like.
He's there. He's with me at all times. So yeah, that I think hands down Brandon Jenkins right now.
All right. I love it. I couldn't agree more, honestly. Okay, who is a celebrity you would love to train for a fight?
Ooh. In this time period?
Yeah, or no, anytime. Yeah.
I mean, all time. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is my all-time.
Okay.
He's a little too old past his prime, but I would have loved to train him to fight.
Okay.
I think I'd go with Thor.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'd go with Thor, Chris Hemsworth.
It. Nice.
That's a handsome dude.
It is.
You know, like, I think he'd be fun to hang out with. He's Australian, probably, you know, be fun to get a beer with after. Yeah. Or Tom Hardy. He seems like a really good dude.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Who's already training too.
Exactly.
He's already
he
in
does
there.
jiu-jitsu and stuff. He competes.
Or even let's take it up. Maybe even Keanu Reeves. Like, that would be, you know, those 3 right there.
Sure, he's on a movie around here somewhere.
Keanu Reeves would be awesome. Those guys all kind of train already too. So I think that any one of those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, Keanu's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Okay, awesome. I love that. All right, and this one's from me, actually. If you could spar anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh. Man, that's good. Spar anybody. I'm gonna think. I think I'd go with Patrick Swayze.
Okay, I like it.
See if he could, channel his inner Dalton.
Yeah, right.
And go with that.
Right.
You know, God rest his soul. But
yes.
Patrick Swayze, he seemed like maybe he could be tough, but maybe not. So
You might be able to take him.
Yeah. Another guy, you know, he's another guy. I'm a big Point Break fan. So anybody from that movie, I would be cool with hanging out with, training, fighting any one of them.
All right. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, John, for being here. Like this was awesome. You gave so much insight. It's so cool to hear your story. Like I said, you start from the bottom, and I just wanted to hear about the climb.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, it's an honor to come on to any of these shows, and obviously with you, I'm proud to see you doing your thing and
thank you, Coach.
And out there slapping people and doing podcasts. So thank you for having me on.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Before I let you go, is there anything that you want to say to your people or your team, whatever?
You know, a lot of big fights coming up. Just follow Syndicate MMA, Bigwood MMA 702 on IG. New company sponsor, Just Fight Co. Check that out, justfightco.com. But past that, just support the team and that's it.
Exactly. Straight out of Syndicate, baby. Before I'll end this, I do want to give a quick shout out to my sponsors. We've got Foodie Fit Meal Prep. They're your local meal prep spot here in Vegas, serving up fresh, delicious, and affordable food. You can buy online, or in stores and use code MyTime10FF for a discount at checkout. And then we've also got Regenerate RX. They are the #1 telehealth company in the U.S., and they are the official telehealth performance partner of the UFC. They are changing lives daily with their True Shield certified injectable products that is safe for athletes, which is probably the first time that you see, athletes being able to use any type of injectable and being okay under the WADA anti-doping, system. So it's great. I've been using it for a couple weeks now. I got sponsored after doing Power Slap, so that's really cool.
Yeah, those are a couple guys I'd like to get in touch with. So
Charles?
I'm here.
All right. Yep, we're going to get that hooked up for sure. This is the Georgian MMA Coach of the Year. Hello. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This is In the Corner with Destiny McCubbin. We are so back, and you know what it is. Real fighters, real stories, real talk. We'll see you next round.